I love the Insta360 Go 2. It has to be one of my favorite cameras of all time. Let me show you 10 tips about how to get the best out of it. Let's jump straight into my first tip. Understand that the best quality video you'll get out of the Go 2, apart from if you want to use special modes like time lapses, is Pro Video mode. This also gives you the best flexibility in editing because it not only gives you the best flow state stabilization, keeping your footage smooth and steady, but you also get rock solid horizon leveling, meaning your footage is always straight no matter which way up you're holding your Go or how its orientation might change. It also means that in editing, you can choose any aspect ratio of your choice. So you can adapt your shot to a 9:16 format for Instagram stories or TikTok, or you can adapt it for a 16:9 format for YouTube or other landscape platforms. You'll only get this reframing ability if you record in Pro Video though, not standard video, so watch out. The second tip is about making sure you get the footage. Because you don't get a screen on such a small camera, it can be easy to miss the footage you want by triggering the wrong mode of capture, like triggering a slow motion capture instead of Pro Video, or just missing capturing altogether. Here's how to make sure you capture Pro Video and every time. Because remember, you can only do that reframing and repurposing for both vertical and landscape video if you've recorded in Pro Video. Here's the trick. Change all the customizable button settings to Pro Video mode, so no matter what state the Go is in, whether it's on or off, a single or double tap of the action button, I will always activate Pro Video mode on my Go 2. If you need another mode and you're a power user, you can reprogram the buttons if you need to, but I tend to trigger other modes from the case if I need to do that. Okay, third tip, wide action, linear and narrow views. When the original Go was first released, it shot with a very wide point of view. I mean, I guess you could say it was a key feature. Just make sure it was pointed in the right direction and it probably captured it. After a while, Insta360 gave a second option via a software update, and that was a punched in narrow point of view shot called linear. Now in the Go 2, you have 4 frames to choose from: wide, action, linear, and narrow. And the good news is, like with many of the Insta360's features, you can just shoot now and you can choose later on how you want to render the video, with a wide point of view as usual or with a new narrow point of view, or the 2 other choices that fit in between those 2. You'll see it's not just a recrop, but it does give the look of punching into a different kind of view, a different kind of look. And here's the thing, if you want to get away from the wide point of view action camera look, you can. And with a little careful handling, you can get a much better cinematic kind of vibe from your shots. And that's pretty remarkable from this tiny camera. Before we get into the next tip, just note that for some of these, I've also made separate videos where you can get more details and tutorials, so check the video description to find those. Tip 4, export to the highest quality, but remember, it can eat up your storage. The standard Go 2 has 28 gigs of usable storage. If you record video using the high bitrate settings at 80 megabits per second, this will give you around 45 minutes of recording time. If you record video using the standard bitrate at 60 megabits per second, this will give you around 60 minutes of recording time. So the high bitrate setting will give you a bit better video quality, and the standard bitrate setting will give you 15 minutes more recording time. You choose. Now, the highest video you can export from the Insta360 app is 1440p video. To do this, tap Export, custom select the highest resolution and bitrate, and now your video will export in the highest video quality possible. Tip 5, change up your point of view and use a selfie stick. It's also a little bit like a drone, but it's not a drone, especially with its wide angle view and flow state stabilization. It's a pretty smooth solution to change your angle of view on the world. And if you've got one, try the extended selfie stick for some extra height or longer sweeping views. Tip 6, use the Iron Man medallion where you think you're in a place where you might want to use it quickly. It's far easier to get your Go 2 here than trying to pry it out of the hat clip, selfie stick mount, or the case. It's just a second to get into your hand and start shooting. Otherwise, it can be tricky to start shooting quickly, especially if it's cold. And place it upside down to reduce chin or under neck shots. That extra couple of centimeters can help. Number 7, time lapses. So when you're doing a time lapse, you're supposed to have all of your settings on manual so your camera doesn't correct for any of the settings. So ISO, focus, aperture, shutter speed, all of that is supposed to be on manual to get the best results. Well, that's not going to happen with the Go 2. And that is also the beauty of the Go 2. The Go 2 is not meant to do any of this, not most of the time anyway. The Go 2 has a built-in autopilot to figure out all of these things for you. And for B-roll, the Go 2 does a pretty slick job to produce short time-lapse videos you'll be proud to show and share. And even better, you can produce a motion time-lapse sweeping across your scene without any extra equipment like a gimbal. Here's tip 8. The built-in magnetic back is particularly good for mounting the Go on things like lampposts and other street furniture or other places around the house or in public. But if you plan to do an activity with extreme motion, then I highly recommend you get the action mount adapter instead of relying on the magnetic Iron Man pendant and the connection with your Go 2. Although the magnet is strong, much stronger than the original Go, you don't want to take the chance of shaking out your Go 2 from all the shocks and vibrations you may be going through. You can get the action mount adapter from the Insta360 Go 2 mount adapter bundle. Tip number 9, don't bother recording in log mode. Unless there's something you're really trying to do with it, you'll get better results sticking to either vivid or the standard color profile that comes built into the Go 2. Personally, I prefer standard. I think that's where the best balance sits. Here's tip number 10. On the original Insta360 Go, you can tap the action button and it will record 15 seconds of video. Then the Go will stop recording and go to sleep. You can do this on the Go 2 as well by setting the capture time. You can set the capture time to 15 seconds, so it's like the original Insta360 Go. But you might prefer to set the capture time to 10 minutes. Then you can choose whether to stop the recording anytime during those 10 minutes, or you can let the Go 2 record those 10 minutes and then shut itself down automatically. Just be aware that you could end up with a lot of video taking up significant storage on your Go 2, and that can also drain your battery life pretty quickly. And although I can see the benefits of longer recording times, the way I use my Go 2 means I pretty much stick it on 15 seconds of shooting and then automatically shutting down. That way it takes less time with the edit, and also I preserve my battery life. Here's a bonus tip for you too, making a barrel roll. To use this tip, you'll need to have been filming in pro video mode. First, load up your footage in the Insta360 app. Open your footage in the album tab and scroll to the timeline where you want your barrel roll to begin. Hold down your finger on the screen to create a keyframe. Scroll to where you want your barrel roll to end and hold down your finger on the screen to create another keyframe. But on this keyframe, swipe the slider all the way to the end, and when you play back your video, you will have the barrel roll effect. And you can simply export it, and there you have it. Thanks for watching. Try this video next and come back soon.